Here's our another comma rule that we have. I think it's comma rule number 5. Oh, we're on comma rule number 6. And that is to use commas to set off direct quotations. This is an important comma rule for all of us to follow, because whenever you're writing academic papers and you are asked to use textual evidence or to find evidence from an informational text, that means that you are to find direct quotes, direct words from the piece of reading that you've been studying, and to use that in your paper, you have to put quotation marks around it. And so when we use quotation marks, you want to use commas after words such as said, stated, or exclaimed that announce that a direct quotation is coming. So, for example, some of you may write, as John Doe, a reporter from CNN, stated, comma, and then you write exactly what it is he had to say in his article. So to do that, you have to put a comma and then the direct quotation. And like it says up here, a direct quotation is a repetition of someone's exact words. In the example, it says, his father said, I'm very proud of your performance in the game. Since the father said those exact words, we have to put a comma after said. When the quotation appears before the announcing words, and the announcing words just means the phrase telling who said and how they said it. So, for example, Clara exclaimed excitedly, or John said. Those are announcing words. So if a quotation appears before that, you need to use a comma after the quotation, unless it's a question or exclamation, which means therefore you would use an exclamation point or a question mark. The first one says, I'm having a bad day, the child whimpered to her grandfather. These are the announcing words right here. And since our quotation comes before the announcing words, we have to use a comma after it. In the second example, the announcing words come last, but the quotation is a question. So instead of using a comma, we have to use a question mark. Okay, when the announcing words interrupt a quotation, you set them off with commas. So that means whoever said the quote, if it comes in the middle of what they're saying, you use commas on both sides of who said it. My husband has not felt well, the woman told the doctor, since we returned from our cruise. So if you'll notice, the woman, she's the one who's speaking, and she is saying her husband has not felt well since we returned from the cruise. And since her announcement is right in the middle of her quote, we put commas around the quote and then her announcement. When the quotation consists of more than one sentence, you have to be sure to use a period between the sentences. Otherwise, you will create a run-on sentence. We've not talked about run-on sentences yet, but all a run-on sentence is a sentence that keeps going and going and going. Either it's punctuated incorrectly or there's no punctuation at all. And when that happens, you create a run-on sentence. In the first example, it has an example of a run-on sentence. It says, let's go home now, comma, Helen said, comma, I'm getting tired. When we place the comma after Helen said, that just creates a run-on sentence because that's an incorrect place to put a comma. We should have a period there, as in the second example where it says, let's go home now, Helen said, I'm getting tired. So you need to be conscientious of where you put your commas. You have to actually think, is it okay for this comma to go here? You can't just put it there because it looks right or it sounds right. You have to remember these rules. So here's your practice. All you have to do is you write the 5 sentences and add commas where needed. But if no commas are necessary, all you need to write is correct. And the example says, pay at the door, said the usher. And if you'll notice, there is a red comma after door because the announcing words are at the end of the sentence and the quotation comes first. And that calls for a comma after the quotation. So work on 1 through 5 and practice putting commas in the correct location.